Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another edition of Reeves Reflection. I am Anthony Reeves, and thank you for taking the time to join me today. Today, we're going to have a conversation called From Tuskegee to Tampa, How a Mother's Love Influenced My College Journey. Now, the best way for me to start this off is to kind of share with you a backstory. And it starts with my mom. Because a lot of times I've had people ask me, how does a boy from Pine Bluff, Arkansas manage to make it to a small private liberal arts school like the University of Tampa, 900 plus miles away? Well, it happens more simply than you think. So let's take the story back a bit, and I want to start with my mom. My mom was, or is, the only girl with 5 brothers, and she's the number 2 oldest of the 6 kids. And of my mom and her 5 brothers, 4 of them actually went to, I take that back. 5 of the 6 boys went to college. 5 of the 6 kids went to college, including my mom. But my mom's journey was a little unique in the sense that my mother left to attend Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama, when she graduated from high school. Now, I can tell you, my mom, when she shares with me her college stories, she typically focuses on Tuskegee. And I always found that odd because she went to Tuskegee, but she graduated from the college in my hometown, which is the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And for a long time, I was really, really bewildered as to, one, why my mom only focuses her college stories on Tuskegee, and 2, what caused her to finish her education at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Both great historically black colleges and universities, but coming home just seemed kind of weird. Well, several years ago, I had a conversation with my mom, and this kind of gave a little bit of insight on my own journey. Mom went to Tuskegee for the first 3 years, and back then, a lot of times, I believe my grandmother and my grandfather were responsible for paying for her education. So she literally would have money that they would give to her so she could take it with her when she returned to school to take care of her tuition, books, fees, and everything like that. Heading into her last year, unbeknownst to my mom, my grandfather, and this is what she shared with me, my grandfather actually spent her college money. Now, she said spent. I have a feeling it might have been gambled. Not completely sure. But effectively, that's what she told me, that my grandfather spent the money. And as a result, she was not able to return to Tuskegee. Now, I don't know how she was able to finance going to the college in my hometown, but in the end, she ended up having to transfer to the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. And so she finished the last year of her degree in elementary education, as well as her internship and everything, back in Pine Bluff. I didn't know this until many years later. That was a very sore subject for my mom. And I asked her about that. I'm like, why does that kind of hit you wrong? Her response to me was very, very telling, because she said that of all of her siblings, she was the only one who did not get the opportunity to finish where she wanted to start. So the rest of my uncles who attended Ouachita Baptist University, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Howard University, University of Central Arkansas, all of my uncles, with the exception of one who lost his scholarship due to an injury, but the other remaining uncles all went to the university of their choice, and they all finished at the university of their choice. The only person who did not have that opportunity was my mom. And she carried that feeling of resentment for all of her life. So when I was coming up and I was getting to the point where I was looking at colleges, my mom, unbeknownst to me, made it her mission to make sure that I could go wherever I wanted to go. And more importantly, she wouldn't let anybody influence me going where I wanted to go. Now, my journey to go to the University of Tampa was a little different, because I didn't pick the University of Tampa because it was my dream school. I didn't pick it because it was the school that I admired. I didn't pick it because it was going to get me to a particular place. I picked it because the person who I looked up to, who did not necessarily hold me in the highest regard, was my JROTC instructor, who was actually encouraging us to look at this school. in particular, a couple of students, not necessarily me. So I was trying to prove to him that I could succeed at any place that he thought we should go. And so he thought we being, there was only a handful of us were looking at going to schools out of state. He thought this was a school that you should go to. And so I was committed to making this school my reality. Now, let's just be clear. And this is the one thing a lot of times kids don't know. When you're that age, you don't have a concept of finances. So I had no idea that the University of Tampa was a private school. I didn't know the concept of residency. I didn't know what in-state and out-of-state meant in terms of your ability to graduate or go to a particular school. All I know is that the person that I looked up to thought this was a great school. I wanted to go there. Didn't visit the school. I got a brochure, and that's about the extent of it. But I said, I'm going there. We're going to make it do what it do. And so here I am, going to a school, respectively looking back, was way out of my price range. I was a single parent household with my mom, who was a school teacher, who at the time, Arkansas was like the second lowest paying state in the country. I think Mississippi was number 50, but we were 49. So the university at the time, I want to say, was about $17,000 a year. This is back in 87, which could have been like $50,000 to $60,000 as far as we're concerned, because that was basically almost half of my mom's salary, something like that, if I remember correctly. But the thing I found fascinating was that, and I didn't know this, there were people around her encouraging her to discourage me from going. I didn't know this until years later, and let me take that a lot back, because at least one of my uncles made a comment about it. And then I started while I was in college. And then what I realized a little later on, that there were others who were articulating to my mom that maybe she should encourage me to go to a school that was either closer or more affordable. But my mom, she was committed, and I do mean committed, to not letting anyone influence my ability to go to the school that I wanted to go to. And so when I got there, let me be the first to tell you, it was a shocker, because I remember, I think the monthly bill for the university was like almost $1,000 a month. Again, remember now, this is $1,000 a month from my mom, who's probably making about $40,000 a year as a teacher. So you can imagine how devastating that is, having a situation where if you had to support yourself and take care of your own well-being and then pay for your child's education, how devastating that is. Now, there are going to be people going to say, well, did you have scholarships? I had a very small scholarship that took care of a couple of things, but not a lot. And I still remember my mother calling me, and you could hear it in her voice that she didn't want to have to say this. But she was very blunt when she said, listen, I can't afford $900 a month. And I remember I told her, I said, don't worry about it. I'll make it work. If I have to leave and transfer home, I'll transfer home. And you could hear the disappointment in her voice, because she did not want that to happen, but she did not know what to do with regards to that. And I told her, you did more for me because you at least encouraged me to come here. So that's all that mattered to me, the support. I didn't care about the money. I cared that she didn't let the fact that the school was way out of her pay range deter her, cause her to deter me from going to this school. So it was funny, because all the years of watching my mother do all type of resilient things for herself kind of shaped me into this mindset of believing that I needed to do the same thing if this is what I wanted. Because one of the things I haven't shared, and I'll share with you another reflections, is that during my time growing up, I used to watch my mother make so many things happen with very little. But she never made excuses, and she always found ways to make things happen. And so that resiliency I got from her. So I still remember telling her that if you can support me like you're doing now, that's all that matters. I'll figure out a way to pay for school on my own. Now, I'm going to tell you, at 18, I ain't have a clue as to what I needed to do. But I remember I started saying to myself, you know what? If I've got to do this, let me see what I need to have happen. And so I remember I went down to this financial aid office, And I remember the first thing I came in and they were like, because I got a call out from class and they were like, this thing your mom didn't send the payment in. I said, is there any type of financial assistance plans that are available that can assist me so that I can stay here? Because if not, I'm going to have to leave. And so, I was lucky. I had a nice lady who looked up and she realized a couple of things. First of all, she looked and she said, she noticed that for whatever reason, somebody did not properly process my student loan. So I had a student loan outstanding that could be applied. So all of a sudden, the student loan applied to the school. And so instead of my mom having to pay $900 a month, it dropped to $200. And then it was funny because for whatever reason, the University of Tampa was very good back in those days. They didn't stress mom over that $200. So they were like, okay, $200 a month for the next, 6, 7, 8 months? That's cool. That was doable. So in my mind, I kept thinking, I'll work that out accordingly and keep it going. Then it was funny because in the spring, they had opportunities for interviews for resident advisors. And so I decided I would interview. Now, the fascinating part about this is that as a freshman at our school, they almost never hire RAs until you're a junior and senior. Every now and then they'll pick a couple of sophomores, but for the most part, the vast majority are juniors and seniors. And so they'll pick maybe like 3 or 4 sophomores. I didn't care. In my mind, I told myself that, listen, I'm trying to do whatever I need to do to stay. This is an opportunity because the way it was back then, if you were an RA, they gave you a stipend of like $3,000 a semester and your room and board was thrown in for free. So that meant that now, as a result, if I were to get hired, I wouldn't have to worry about room and board. My student loan would take care of the vast majority of my, tuitions and everything, and I'd have a couple extra dollars left over. So I applied, again, didn't care, went to the interview. I was so chill. I was like, this is no big deal. You see where I'm going with this? Yes, I got hired. Yes, I was surprised. Yes, it took care of a lot of issues. The fascinating part, because remember, when I let into by the time I left at the end of my freshman year, I owed the university, initially it would have been $900 for what? You figure August and September to October, November, December. So you've got 4 months there, 4 months in the spring. So it's like 8. That'd have been 8 times that. It'd have been $7,200. But now it's only 8 times 2, which is $1,600. No biggie. But this was the fascinating part. Because I had been in a situation where I got hired as an RA, when I came back in the fall, my stipend went towards that outstanding balance. So now I was straight. But then here was the other part. That nice lady I met who helped me out during financial aid at the very beginning called me back in and was like, do you know you're eligible for college work study? I was like, and how would I know that again? And she just kind of laughed and she was like, no, you're eligible for college work study. I said, but even as an RA, I'm an RA now. Is that going to be a problem? She said, no, that's okay. So coming into the fall of my sophomore year, I'm now in a situation where I have student loan, Pell Grant. I have an extra kind of leadership grant that I'm getting. I'm now an RA and I'm college work study. So not only am I in a situation where everything back is taken care of from that $1,600, I now got a couple of extra dollars. It's kind of funny. I'm now put over in a positive, meaning that the university actually owes me money because I have college work study. So it's funny because if I didn't have college work study, it would have probably broken about even. But with the college work study, they actually owed me money. And I was like, oh, cool. Then something interesting happened. The one thing I didn't share with you, everybody, was that I was also participating in Army ROTC. And I had been in Army ROTC all of my freshman year and halfway through my sophomore year. What I didn't know is that because I was trying to become a commissioned as an officer, no big deal. I came there thinking I was going to get a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship. I didn't get it, so I didn't think about it. I had already committed myself to do 4 years of ROTC. Didn't really lose any sleep. What I did not know was that after a period of time, you actually qualify for a 2.5-year scholarship. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I'm like I still remember in the fall heading it was like hilarious. Into the spring when I was in my spring of my sophomore year, I get called in. And I remember being told by the commanding officer there, he said, you do realize that, we looked at your grades and, ROTC I was doing very well in. So it was like, of all my classes on campus, I was making regular A's and B's and that, no problem. And I remember being called in and one of the instructors asked me, is it your intent to be commissioned as an ROTC, as a Army officer? I said, yes. I said, I come from a line of veterans. I have officers in my family. I want to continue that tradition. I definitely want to serve. Did you know that we have scholarships available? And I said, yes. I know there was 4-year scholarship. I just didn't qualify. No, there are 2.5-year scholarships. Oh. I said, well, what do you need to do? Well, you have to basically do A, B, C, D, and E. And I was like, and of course, as they're telling me this, I'm having this, Scooby-Doo moment of, I did those things, which is why you're sitting in front of me now. Okay. So he looked forward. He said, what that means is we're proud to inform you that you now are the recipient of an Army ROTC 2.5-year scholarship. And I kind of had this dumb look on my face. I said, I don't understand. So what does that mean? Well, the University of Tampa at the time had this arrangement with the United States Army that if any ROTC students come to their university with an ROTC scholarship that covers books and tuition, that they would throw in room and board, which would effectively make the scholarship a full ride. So effectively, the instructor turns to me and says, if you continue to keep your grades up and meet the academic standards of the university, your university experience is paid for the rest of your college experience. And here I am in the middle of my sophomore year, and he's literally telling me that I don't have to pay for my junior year and I don't have to pay for my senior year. I was dumbfounded. But then it gets better, because even though I was like this, no one told me that being like this, I didn't have to be an RA and I didn't have to do college work study. So out of this, I didn't need a student loan anymore. That went away. All the leadership grants, that went away. And it was funny because I remember someone asking me, are you going to still do college work study? I was still, even though I got a scholarship, I was still eligible for college work study. I'm like, yeah, why not? So it was hilarious. And so at one particular point, I think I did college work study all the way through to my senior year. And so by the time I graduated, the university, not only was I getting additional monies from ROTC scholarship, I was getting money from the university because I was an employee of the university as a resident advisor. I literally was making money while I was there to do all kind of things, like, a couple extra dollars to buy food when I got upgraded to my apartment as an RA and things of that nature. It was just awesome. But it was funny because when I started looking back, I have no idea that this was even possible. But what made it possible was that I had someone in my life who was committed to ensuring that she wouldn't let anyone deter me. When I look back now, had my mom said, I think you should come back home, I probably would have. Had some of the people in my life who were influential in my life tell me, I think it's in your best interest to come back home, I probably would have. And the reason why I probably would have is because I would have valued their opinion about what they believed was in my best interest. But the person who truly had my best interest at heart was my mom. Because at her core, she wanted to make sure that I never experienced what she did. So in spring of 1991, my mother had the opportunity to fly to Florida and watch her baby, her only child, walk across the stage of the school that he chose to go to and that he chose to want to finish. And so her experience in Tuskegee made it possible for me to have my experiences in Tampa. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, I enjoy you listening. You can check me out on all my various platforms at anthonyreeves.com. And as always, my favorite question of the day is this: are you ready for the Anthony Reeves experience?